Never lived there. So. Hi,
Oh,
Charlie.
look, Charlie. Not left.
Hey, Kim.
Hi.
And whoever, oh, Sonia. Hello, Sonia.
You're not last.
I'm what?
You're not last. You beat Janet.
I can't set a precedent like that. I better leave.
You better. Looks like Mike's trying.
Yeah, I was my iPad needed an update, and I couldn't get it updated in time, so I'm gonna have to use my phone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I do. Fine. I hear you. Don't see you.
Okay, let me see. Maybe try that.
There you
How's
are.
Okay.
All right, Kim, you're going to have to keep that phone still.
I unplugged it so it'll stay still. Ma'am.
There's Matt.
Down the Red River Gorge or some such place.
It is. It is the gorge.
What? Can we all just go there?
No, no
That
kidding.
would be nice.
That's nice.
Had one additional attendee a second ago, but it looks
Yeah,
like she left.
we lost her. I hope she comes back. She's one of the applicants. So.
Okay.
Hopefully-
Is the other applicant in the attendees as well?
Yes. Yeah. Bobby Spalding's going to be representing the second application for Summer One Farm. I've spoken to Janet, so I know she's going to be trying to join us, but
Trying
Yeah, I
to
talked
join
to her
us.
right-
That's kind of a weak statement, isn't it? She's going to
what's
be
that?
trying. And Darren's already said he's going to miss today, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, he won't make it.
I talked to Janet right after you talked to her, and she was going to try to do the update. So I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I did make a PowerPoint again. I don't know if you guys found that helpful or not. If you want me to put it up or it's up to you guys.
Did you email it?
I didn't email it. I can shoot you an email with it right now if you want me to.
Well, it might help. I might try it on my computer to see if I can
Okay.
see it.
It doesn't have any information that's not in the staff packet. So if you have that in
Okay.
front of you.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine then.
Okay.
I don't need it.
Okay.
Well, do we begin or do we wait?
I just texted Janet. She's not answering.
That's up to you. We have a quorum, so if you want to start, you can, but if you want to wait a few minutes, that's fine.
Charlie, do you advise?
Let's get this show on the road.
All right. This is Kim Stamper, and I call the Scott County Board of Adjustment meeting for June 2020 to order. And our first line of business is approval of the May 7, 2020 minutes. Do I have anybody that wants to make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
And do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Well, all of us that approve, say aye.
Uh,
Aye. The minutes from May 7th are now approved. Charlie, would you like to swear in the members that are
Oh,
here?
I think we're gonna do that as they come up, rather than try to get everybody together on the screen at once.
I forgot since the last time, sorry.
That's quite all right.
All right. Old applications, we have S-2020-15 from Haddock's Construction for reducing setback. Michaela, would you like to?
Yeah,
Before she gets started, Kim, if I could interrupt, could you just state on the record, even though I'll have it in the minutes, that the application for Morgan Manor homeowners has been postponed?
Yes.
It's on the agenda, but just so.
Yes.
So
Well, it was all straight through, so that's why I didn't, sorry. Old,
It's, well, Michaela, is that what that means? Postponed and the strike is just the postpone?
yes, it's postponed. So what's going on with that application? I can give you guys a brief update. Is the location for the proposed sign is actually going to be within a utility easement. The way that the plat was shown, it was recorded as a 150-foot easement, but then it was later corrected by deed that's a 250-foot easement. So KU reached out to us and explained that they want to go off and mark out where their lines are and see where the location of the sign was to make sure there wasn't going to be any interference or trouble with the proposal. And so we're waiting back on hearing from them. So we've basically just been postponing with Morgan Manor's agreement until we get all that information.
okay,
So
so,
it's postponed, I would say, indefinitely until we get that information.
all right. So we need to make note that S-2020-10 is postponed until we
Yes,
get
thank you.
information. All right. Then we're going on to 2020-15. Michaela, if you'll something about it.
I apologize. I am emailing one of the attendees quickly, but yes, that application has been withdrawn. Paul Haddock's emailed and asked to be withdrawn from consideration. So we don't need to hear the application.
Oh,
All right. S-2020-15, the applicant has withdrawn his request. Then we'll go on to the new applications. S-2020-17 from John and Amberly Cobbler. I can't even speak today. A conditional use permit. Michaela.
Yep. All right. So John and Amberly Cobbler are requesting a conditional use permit to allow a large animal clinic at Cynthiana Road, parcel ID 187-20-027.001. It's right next to 2292 Cynthiana Road. But the project site is roughly 5.33 acres in size and is currently zoned A1 agricultural. The properties to the north and south are zoned R1C, single family residential. The land to the east and west are also zoned A1 agricultural. So essentially, in conjunction with the large animal clinic, the applicant is asking to do a limited boarding on site for dogs. So that would qualify as or it would meet our definition of a kennel. So they would have to meet our requirements for that, which are more stringent than what's typically found in the A1 zoning district. So I kind of covered it in my staff report, but essentially the big changes are that the setback requirements for anything that has boarding of more than 3 dogs requires 100-foot setbacks rather than the typical 50. I don't have the exact measurement on the concept plan. This might be something that the planning commission might need to make a determination on for the variance. But it looks like they might need about 10 to 15 feet to be able to meet this setback requirement of 100 feet. The project site appears to only have about 250 feet in width, and it looks like they're proposing a building that's a little over 60 feet. So It looks like it just wouldn't be wide enough to accommodate the 100-foot setback, so I think they will have to slightly encroach on that if you guys choose to approve the application. Beyond that, there are some screening requirements. All the animal runs and exercise yards need to be fenced in and also need to be screened by a row of evergreen trees, no more than 30 feet on center. So again, this is something that's going to need to be shown on the preliminary development plan. The concept plan didn't indicate the location of an exercise yard. I'm assuming there will be something on the project site, but it's just not shown here. So it will need to meet the requirements of that. And yeah, I think that covers it for some of the, stricter requirements for what the kennel is. And then as far as the large animal clinic, that is a conditional use in the A1 zoning district under section 4.12J. This site is shown on our future land use map as being commerce or BIT, so business and industry. So I do feel that the commercial type of use proposed on the site is appropriate for the location. And it does seem like they already have access to the site. They should have sufficient space to accommodate the use, and it is on a main road. So I don't really have concerns with the commercial proposed in that location, just based on what the future land use map is proposing. So really my biggest concern is just that variance request on the setbacks, what the actual dimensions are going to be. So what the variance will need to be, and whether the board wants to address that, or if they feel it's more appropriate for planning commission to do at the time of preliminary. So with that, I am recommending approval of the application with pretty standard conditions, except that they will have to file a preliminary development plan if it's approved. Not sure if you guys have any questions for me or.
Will that preliminary plan, will that cover the other issues you were talking about the more stringent rules for a kennel and all that? So will that take care of those issues?
I think on the preliminary development plan, they would have to show where the exercise yard is proposed and that they'd be meeting the screening and fencing requirements for that. And also they would have to show what the exact dimensions of, I didn't have a scaled drawing of it, so I couldn't measure it out. So I was just guesstimating that'd probably be about 15 feet. So they could maybe encroach 7.5 feet on each side or, something like that. But I think that's something that once they have a preliminary development plan and a more specific site plan, rather than just a conceptual plan, that's something that the planning commission could address. And if they don't feel comfortable with issuing the variance, then they would just have to meet the requirements of the 100-foot setbacks.
So does the property located behind it, is that a residence?
It's a residence, yes.
And so they have a shared driveway off Cynthiana Road.
Mm-hmm.
Is the setback from that driveway, or is it from that boundary line?
It'd be from the boundary line. So that's an access easement. So it essentially allows the owner behind the project site to utilize that drive to access their property. But the setbacks themselves would be from the property line, but in the front, it'd be from the right of way.
So the people in the back, they were notified then, right? And
they were notified. They did reach out to me. I'm not sure if they attended the meeting or not. I'm sure we'll ask to hear from the public, but I did send them a copy of the conceptual plan and a description of the letter and narrative that the applicant had submitted, so they had a better understanding of what they were proposing.
Okay.
Yep. That was the only person I heard from for this application, so they might be in attendance here.
And the property on the other side, that appears to be the city. Georgetown owns that for some reason, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I sent, I think, 3 letters to the city. Yeah. Maybe two or 3. I don't know. I'd have to look back at the notification list, but.
Yeah, this drawing is hard to see.
Yeah, it's for the preliminary, they'd have to do a full size, so it'd be 24 by 36. So it can be a little bit harder to see some of the details And for a
Right.
conceptual plan, we don't ask for all the details and landscaping to be nailed down. It's just that the preliminary development plan is going to have to show that it meets it. I would say the
Right.
primary focus here should be the use and whether you feel that a clinic and a vet clinic and a more commercial type use is appropriate for this site and whether you think it's going to have impacts on the neighbors or not.
Okay.
Okay,
Is the
Yeah.
applicant online with us?
Yeah, she has video and audio here.
Charlie, would you like to swear her in?
yes, is she up and,
Can see and hear you all. I don't know if you can see and hear me or not.
could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the statements you're about to make are the truth to the best of your information and belief?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we've heard from Michaela, but can you explain to us what you plan to do, and have you talked to the neighbors? And
So the only neighbors that we think that we currently have are the people behind the property. I haven't spoke with them yet. We've drove by, but it's never, well, lately with the COVID, we haven't really been visiting people, and I don't have a contact phone number for them. So outside of a letter, I don't know how I would have contacted them. But they're the only people that we have actually as neighbors right now. One side's a vacant lot and the other side, like you said, belongs to the city. We don't expect to kennel and keep a lot of animals. I don't expect noise or odor to be a problem. What's there would be like medical boarding or animals that are there for, care. We have no problem with like trees. I actually like trees, and fencing obviously is just as much a problem for me because I'm responsible for the safety of all those animals. So fencing will be up to par for sure. You won't have to worry about that because it's my liability if they get out of a fence. So I don't think any of that will be an issue. We're going to we plan to share the driveway. We'll pave it if they want it paved. And, as far as there's a bridge that goes onto their property down there. And I have no issue reaching out to the people behind us and answering any questions they have. I just don't have a contact for them. And I didn't know if it was appropriate to show up at somebody's house nowadays and just say hi. So.
how many animals are you anticipating? What's going to be your capacity?
Do you mean like patients per day, or do you mean like, are you talking still on the boarding side?
Both.
Okay.
Boarding.
So I don't expect we'll ever have more than 5 to 6 boarding patients. I don't like hospitalized patients, especially if there's nobody there to watch them. So I don't anticipate we'll have a lot of boarding patients. Patients per day, I think our goal will probably be somewhere around 15 to 20. We're going to try to offer a grooming service. So the grooming service may see 4 to 5 dogs or cats a day. I guess obviously I hope it's a good, busy business and we see lots of pets, but I would say that's probably a fair guess.
All right.
Excuse me, did I hear when you were talking about boarding that it will only be actual dogs that are being treated or seen medically that would be boarded?
So there are a lot of animals who are on medications or have severe anxiety or who are just not good candidates for a large scale boarding facility. And so we would probably be willing to board those dogs, especially if they were clients. If they go out of town and their dog needs insulin twice a day, like those would probably be more of the patients we would focus on boarding. Not necessarily just, somebody's going out of town, we're going to board their animal. It'd be more, hopefully anyways, it'll be more focused in on, medically necessary boarding or animals that just don't do well in a large scale kennel situation, but their people obviously want to go on vacation sometimes.
So at the most, it sounds like this would be a wellness boarding, not just a commercial boarding.
Right. We're going to definitely focus on medicine first. And then in cases where we may need to, I put the boarding in there more so if it ever became necessary in the future, or if we have, because we have a lot of animals who, you know, the people want to go out of town, but they take medicine twice a day. And it's really hard to trust a boarding facility that has 40 dogs to medicate your dog twice a day and make sure that they get the care they need. So we would offer boarding more for that kind of situation, not large scale boarding. Honestly, I don't know that I could listen to them barking all day.
So the conditional request is for a large animal clinic and dog kennel.
So we would be a small animal clinic too. It's not solely large animal.
Okay. That's what confused me a little bit when you said you'd see up to 15 to 20.
Oh, no.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Be a lot.
Actually, I know none of you know me. So I recently purchased Best Pets Animal Clinic, which is a vet clinic here in Georgetown. We're in the little strip mall over by Walmart. And what I'm hoping to do is relocate this small animal practice to this facility out of this leased building. I also own a vet clinic in Cynthiana, which does large animal work and small animal work. So it's a mixed animal practice already. That clinic really needs a facility, and I know that this area could use a facility. So I was going to try to offer large animal service out of that same location and hopefully use it for some of my patients in Cynthiana that need to do a haul-in care, because we're strictly ambulatory right now. So it would be a dual purpose clinic to move this business entirely and to hopefully help that one to expand a little bit too and offer more service to this area.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You said grooming also, correct?
Yes. So we actually already offer grooming out of the Best Pets that's here. So we would just move it with us would be the goal. Yeah.
My dog is a patient at your clinic.
Oh, well, hi. Yes, I see. Maybe you do know us.
I'll know to board her, right? Because she has issues.
Yeah, because we do have I feel like I have a lot of clients who they just worry about going on vacation because they're scared to leave their pets with, so that would be the goal for the boarding.
Nice. Do we have any other questions?
Is the neighbor here?
Yeah, I think there's somebody in attendance that would like to speak. So I think Matt's gonna try and get them on so they can talk.
All right.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, finally. I've been trying to pipe in and I couldn't figure this out. I'm the neighbor. I'm the neighbor behind the property, 2292 Cynthiana Road.
Swear you in first.
I'm sorry? Oh, yes.
Swear you in first.
Yes.
Are we not gonna get a video of you?
I've been trying to turn it on and I cannot figure out why it will not come on.
Well, in that case, let's just do it on faith. Would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes, sir.
And you swear or affirm the statements you're about to give to be the truth to the best of your information and belief?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I looked at the plans and I actually did speak to the other neighbor who's a developer next door. And we feel like we're not really opposed to having a clinic here. And I do appreciate Amberly mentioning that, they're not planning to have dogs barking there day and night. The two concerns that I had, number one is with the shared driveway. Currently, we run a big semi truck up and down the driveway. We only do it occasionally. But my concern is if there are patients, humans bringing out their patients that are not aware that a big semi truck might be coming down the driveway, that we might have a big crash. So I would like to see the driveway wider. That way they would have space to go if necessary, and also if maybe a sign could be posted when they're leaving that, watch out because a big truck might be coming downhill. The concern is that the hill is just so steep, so when he turns, he's going by inertia basically. So that was my one concern. And the second one is we do have some land, like outside our property, I call it on our side of the creek to make it easier to understand, that belongs to the property in front of us. So we are not allowed to do anything with it, but maybe if they're coming in, that they could plant some trees that could grow big to kind of help to block off again the noise in the sides of any exercise yard or anything that they might put in.
Yeah, trees are not a problem. And honestly, we're probably gonna have to widen the driveway a little bit anyways, and we'll have that paved. So it hopefully will be a nicer driveway than what's currently there. So that, I'm sure that would be done no matter what. And we'll probably have a perimeter of trees all the way around, and then there'll be fencing too. So I don't know that there'll be any problems. We really shouldn't be too close to you all because we're gonna try to be
No.
uphill a little bit too. So if there's anything in the back, and I know you probably know that where the vineyard is down there, we'll probably fence that in for potential pasture of if we have, say, a hospitalized horse or cow or something, but there's not going to be anything down there. There won't be dogs down there, nothing like that.
Okay, makes sense. And what you'd mentioned, coming across the bridge, you are certainly welcome to come talk to me. I'm home most days. I wasn't sure how to get in touch with you either. But yes, feel free to come out. We can chat. But yeah, those are my main two concerns. I understand, like Michaela had mentioned, that some kind of business might go in there. And honestly, I feel like this is a better option than what we had on the books over the winter.
Hopefully we'll be good neighbors. We don't plan on causing any trouble. Honestly, I like a pretty calm, quiet place if we can make it work that way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, those are my main two concerns. Other than that, everything seems okay to me.
All right.
Thank you.
Charlie, do you have any other questions?
I'm looking at the aerial photograph. Which
Yes.
unfortunately mine's been printed on a black and white printer, so it's hard to read, even more so than just in general. But the subject property of the Koblers, that's not the property that fronts on Cynthiana Road.
It is the property that fronts. I sent out notices with the property up front. Jay had done it for the one in the back, but I added the two
All right, so it's
into the notification list, so they were notified.
okay. So it's the applicant's property that fronts on 62, and then
That's
the
Yeah.
Ms.
I
Callis,
just didn't want to have to make Jay redo it for two extra properties, so I just added
But-
those on.
Ms. Callis that just testified, then hers is then in the back. So she's the one that uses the shared drive
Yes, that's correct.
to get to her property. All right, that makes more sense to me then. Okay, thank you. And no other questions from me.
Michaela, would we have to put the driveway as a condition, or would that once again go under the preliminary development plan?
I think that would go under the preliminary. I'm not sure if the commission would require that to be paved or not, but I don't know, Matt, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sorry, on which?
On whether the driveway should be a condition to be paved and widened, or
I think that'll probably, I think paved at least will be something that we would look for when it goes through for its development plan approval. The widened, it's hard to say. I don't know what the width is right now, but we would probably look at least for, at the entrance for it to have adequate width for, a vehicle to enter and a vehicle to be waiting to leave at the same time.
I would suggest, if I might, because I don't know that we have any particular standards for that. There may be some accepted principles, but I think at the very least, the commission staff would be looking at, if there's a shared drive, then this project can't interfere with the use of that shared drive. So if they're going to be doing something that might otherwise block or impair the shared drive's use, that might be the kind of improvement that might be necessary. So I think without question, if we approve this, by implication, that's going to mean that that shared drive's got to be looked at on a preliminary development plan. And then staff is one that really needs to say what that ought to be and what's serviceable. We really don't, we really don't have that at our fingertips.
Typically, when you have shared driveways like that, there's a shared driveway agreement between the two properties that I've seen.
Where in the world are you from?
Well, in the real
Are
estate
you
world,
Johnny come lately or what?
well, I mean,
Charlie.
if you're going to take a gravel driveway and improve it with a commercial enterprise over there, and you've got a semi truck coming down with a freshly paved driveway and a bridge, I think that the two parties really need to have that shared driveway agreement in place to delineate who's responsible for what, and then the construction and the requirements for the drive, that comes from us or planning and zoning, right?
That's all very reasonable. That's not the practice that I've seen through the years. But no, that's exactly correct. Everybody that shares anything ought to have an understanding as to what the parameters are, who takes care of it, and so on. It's just that in my few months of practice, that's rarely been the case.
It is, but
Been ad hoc all the way through.
When there's lending involved, typically financial institutions, if there's a shared driveway agreement, especially if it's a federally backed type product, they require it. And I've seen several of them, but that's just in the lending area. But something like this, I believe, with a veterinarian clinic and a private landowner, it would behoove them to do it, not so much, probably not on us to do, but anyway.
Absolutely. Yes, agree.
Well, obviously, we will want a safe driveway. I mean, we would want a safe entrance and a safe driveway for everybody. So I think it would only benefit me to make sure that happens. I don't have a problem with that.
Sure.
I would just add, I'm between the two property owners. It might not be a bad idea to also look at the plat. I know in recent years we've been requiring the plat that creates the shared easement to at least loosely spell out how the maintenance is to be handled.
Right.
Usually for something like this where the lot was just split in half, it would just say that they will share the cost of maintenance equally. But if one being a commercial use now and one being a residential, if they need to revisit that, you're right, that might be something that's smart for them to look into.
Exactly. Yeah.
I agree, especially if the people in the back decide to sell, then there you have that situation already.
Sure.
Yeah, and I do believe right now we have, just like Matt mentioned, we do have the shared responsibility for maintaining it.
Okay.
Well, this would be like anything else. If a problem occurred down the road, this is a conditional use, so it could be readdressed by the neighbor if an issue did crop up, correct?
Yes.
Do we have any other questions or discussion?
We might just want to make sure that there's no other people in attendance that are looking to speak on the matter. It looks like we have a few attendees. So.
Yeah, I believe Justin from the developer was planning to attend.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It looks like no one else is raising their hand.
Who was the Bobby Spalding that popped up earlier?
He's going to be representing the next application for Summerlin Farm. I believe Jeff Owens is the architect that worked on the concept plan. Is that correct, Amberly?
Yeah, Jeff.
Okay. I'm not sure for Tanya Sharp or Chris Howard what application they're here for.
I think that's the one that got postponed. There's a Tanya Sharp on as a resident next to that Maddox Construction.
Oh, okay.
All right, Sonia and Mike, do we have other questions, or you have a motion? How would you like to proceed?
I have no questions. I would make a motion, but I'm not sure if I could get. So Mike, if you want to go for it, go for it.
Well, I'm not sure either, to be honest with you. I mean, I'd make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit as stated in the staff report.
Well, will we
I mean,
add
I don't-
that 6 conditions for the preliminary developmental plan?
Yeah, I think, and that's the part I didn't quite understand being new to this is, how that part of the process works. But, I think we'd want to see what they're going to do, but it's like, I think what was said was we're approving the conditional use of the property, not the development. Is that correct?
Yes, if I might answer that a little bit. The development plan would be reviewed by staff and it would be brought into compliance with our regulations. All we are really looking at is the use. Is this a suitable use for this neighborhood, this location? And if it can be made suitable with some conditions, we can add those conditions. And of course, Michaela's suggested 5 conditions. But the actual layout, access, egress, shared drive, all that kind of stuff, that would go to staff and they would make sure the design complied with our basic requirements and our purposes. And of course, the parties, as you said earlier, they really need to talk about what happens to their shared drive once all these improvements are made to it and additional traffic and whatnot is put on that driveway.
Would you make that part of the approval of the conditional?
As Matt pointed out, that's generally something staff insists upon. You give us a plan, it needs to state how this thing's going to be taken care of. Because private parties rarely do that unless there's some third party like a lender involved in it. But as Matt said, that's something they would actually ask the parties to comment on and memorialize on that plan. Doesn't mean we can't add that as a condition, just to make sure it gets, it's accomplished.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, with that said, then item number 5 of Michaela's conditions is they shall file a preliminary development plan prior to any construction or commencing operation. So if we're approving the conditional use, then my original motion to approve the conditional use to allow the large animal clinic and dog kennel on Cynthiana Road is sufficient.
And that'd be subject to the staff report. Yes, sir, that would be sufficient.
Right, subject to the staff report and these 5 conditions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good job.
I'll second it.
Is that Sonia?
Yes.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Then we approve S 2020-17 based on the motion made by Mike. Good luck.
Thank you. So just to be clear, just because this is new for me, will I get a list of all of the things that I need to present to you? Okay, just so I get an email or something. Okay.
Matt is going to be your next best buddy.
Yep, I'll be sending you an email with a follow-up letter that basically goes over the conditions of approval that were stated in the staff report. But then Matt's gonna see you through the process for planning commission or one of the other staff members. So he'll be able to help you out with the preliminary development plan, but you'll just want to work with an engineer on that.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, we've already got Omni working on it, so we should have pretty much everything from that side of it done. So, okay,
Thanks,
thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, then are we ready to move to the next new application? S 2020-18, Summer Wind is applying for a conditional use permit. Hi, Janet. Michaela, do you want to speak to
Yeah,
the?
sorry. I'm getting emails from some of the attendees, so I'm trying to attend to that while I'm
Oh,
talking to
okay.
you guys. But yeah, let me go over that staff report now.
Okay.
All right. So Summer Wind Equine is requesting a conditional use permit for a secondary dwelling for a hired farm worker at 2575 Ironworks Road. The project site is a parcel of roughly 490 acres and is zoned A1 agricultural. The surrounding properties are also zoned A1. The applicant is essentially requesting to remove and replace one of the secondary dwelling units on the project site. So my understanding is there's an existing mobile home there, and they're looking to replace it and update it. They're proposing to put it in the same location. It will meet our separation requirements of being 100 feet from any of the other existing residences, and it will also meet all of our setback requirements. There appears to already be existing access and whatnot. Like I said, all the infrastructure is essentially there. I just think it sounds like it was just time for them to replace that mobile home there. So with that, I am recommending approval of the application. I'm not sure if you guys have any questions for me.
No, I don't have any. Is the applicant or the applicant's representative present? Like to speak to us about this?
Yes.
And Charlie will have to swear you in.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we gonna have a video?
I don't see it.
Oh, is this Mr. Spalding?
It is.
Well, I still don't see you, but if you would raise your right hand, please.
Yes, sir.
And do you swear or affirm the statement you're about to give to be the truth to the best of your information and belief?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And we just want to basic your impression or your desire, what you all are going to do.
We are improving a mobile home structure that's in place now that needs to be replaced with a newer model and to facilities there.
All right. And Michaela, it'll be follow the guidelines or within the 100 feet of anything else.
She's gone on strike.
Michaela, did you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were asking Bobby. I apologize. No, it's not within 100 feet of any of the other residences. And it also looks like it's over 100 feet away from the property line as well. So it is meeting all of our setback requirements, and it is meeting that 100-foot separation that we asked for when the secondary dwelling goes in.
Okay. And of course, you probably same from anybody else.
What was that? Sorry.
Did you hear
My
anything?
internet is lagging right now.
I understand.
We did get one drop in this afternoon while I was out of the office. I was working from home. I was not able to get in touch with that gentleman. I tried to call him and email him. I did explain what they were looking to do in my email. It doesn't, and I gave the link to the meeting, but it doesn't look like they're in attendance here. I hadn't heard from anyone else.
All right. Do any of the board have questions for him?
Do not.
I'll entertain a motion.
I don't, there's one other person in the audience. I don't know if they're here for this application or not, but I don't know if we want to.
Tanya
can-
Sharp is here for the Haddix construction application. I tried to email her, but the application has been withdrawn, Tanya, just so you're aware. So we won't be hearing it tonight. They have withdrawn their request.
So there are no more witnesses?
No, the only other person in
It's
attendance was the
no.
last applicant.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion on 2020-18.
I'll make a motion that we approve application S 2020-18, Summerlin Equine, requesting a conditional use permit for the secondary dwelling at 2575 Ironworks Road, subject to the staff report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
S 2020-18 has been approved based on the staff guidelines. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. Thanks, Michaela.
All right, then our next discussion is condition of approval on S 2020-16. I think this is from our last meeting, Michelle Leach.
It looks like she's not in attendance, so I'm not sure if you guys just want to go ahead and table that discussion to next month, or essentially what was going on with that is that one of the conditions that were put on the application, she had requested a secondary dwelling for a family member at 145 Hess Branch Road, and she's not able to meet the condition of 100-foot separation between the two dwellings. So she wanted to bring it before you guys to discuss it, but without her being here, I would say it probably is just best to address it next meeting.
I mean, what normally happens when they make that? I mean, then we decide if we're gonna let her do it. Is that what happens? I mean, I know that sounds stupid, but is there any guidelines or?
I've only seen it happen. What's that, Mike?
No, I agree with Kim. I'd like to know what the guidelines would be.
The only guidelines there are is simply there's got to be 100-foot separation.
Right.
There are obviously occasions where the physical layout, the narrowness, whatever topography, may preclude that. When that happens, if it is apparently justifiable, then the board can make an adjustment to it. Generally speaking, I'm sure we have at some point. I don't really remember it at the moment. But, well, I mean, generally speaking, it's just been 100-foot separation. That's what people have done. But I'm sure there are lots of places, particularly where Hess Branch is located, they're just not possible.
Okay. So,
but without her here to explain, the details, I'm not sure what we can do.
Right.
Okay.
So we don't have enough information.
As far as my uninformed state.
Yeah, but I was just trying to find out before we go, when we have the next meeting, so that we have as much information as we can.
I agree. I agree with that.
Do we have any other items on the agenda?
Nope, that was it.
If I might suggest, Madam Chairman, if you could just pass the review of the Michelle Leach conditions to then the July meeting.
Yes, sir.
I do have one question though for Michaela. Is the relief she's looking for, Ms. Leach is looking for, is that going to create something that we may need to send notices to the neighbors again?
I actually was gonna ask you that. I'm not sure if it's considered a variance or, she never submitted a drawing for the initial application and she hasn't submitted one now. So we're kind of flying blind as to where she's proposing to locate this house. So you could, we could send out new notices and require her to submit a drawing before the board makes any further decisions on the conditions if you want, or.
Yeah, my suggestion, Michaela, is that's probably what we ought to do.
I agree.
Flying blind is not something we really ought to
No.
do. And I know it's tough when people don't submit things, but I think that's what we ought to request.
Okay.
Do I have a motion from a member so that we can put this in the minutes for the next meeting?
I think you can do that as chair. Just
Thank you,
simply-
dear. Thank you. S 2020-16 will be postponed until the July meeting. And-
The applicant is actually here now.
Who is
All
Ms. Leach?
Mm-hmm.
Then you tell her here.
Charlie will have to sign Miss Leach in.
Give it just a second. Her audio's not up yet.
Oh, Ms. Leach,
Yes.
raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the statement you're about to make to be the truth to the best of your information and belief?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
We have the application of 2020-16, and we understand that you're having some issues. We'd like for you to explain to us what those are.
Yes, I originally filed for one motion and it wasn't the correct one. I was told that I needed to file for a variance, and I talked with Joe Kane, and he told me that that was correct, that I needed to file for a variance and not what I originally filed for. And the cabin that we live in, we had sold our home, and we this was a weekend place, and so we were originally intended to build down here. So that's kind of where we are now. It's 240 square feet. The cabin that we currently live in. And so we were told that it was supposed to be 100 square feet, where the home is supposed to be built. And it's not. It's about 65 to 70 square feet. It's like next to it. And it's the only place that we can build on this farm. It's like full of hills and everything, and the lagoon is like located, like 300 square feet, and then we have like a pole barn shop like up on the hill up across from it and everything, and it's got all our belongings in it and everything. Our question was, we were wanting to go ahead with it, and we were going to keep this cabin as like a guest house, and that sort of thing. They were worried about us renting it out, which, that was an absolute no. We were not going to rent it out. there weren't going to be any farm workers or that sort of thing, living in it or anything. At most, anybody that would be staying in it would be our son, on occasion, that sort of thing. We already have workers that are wanting to, start on it, and that sort of thing, start building and that stuff. Of course, it's been raining the whole lot. Haven't been able to do anything. So that was our issue with just the 30 feet. It's kind of stopping us with going ahead with everything. So he told me, come for a discussion because I couldn't get file for an variance until July, so to come up and talk to you all with the discussion and see what the thoughts were on everything, to see if we could get a go ahead to, keep going with everything, to go get the permits and see what kind of questions and concerns that anybody had for us and everything.
Have you submitted drawings to Michaela or to the staff?
No, because at the time she didn't ask me for any. She just told me to come and put an application in, and she's the one that suggested that I go with this one, which was the conditional use permit, which I should have went with a variance in the first place instead of a conditional use permit. I should have had a variance and not a conditional use permit. I guess it was kind of a misunderstanding on what I needed in the first place. I tried to explain the best way that, possible what I needed, which is fine. It was just kind of a misunderstanding on all parts on, kind of what we needed. But it's kind of delayed everything, on all parts. But I mean, I can submit the plans. That's not a big deal on what we have and what we're going with. It's going to be a 1,200 foot home that's going up. So that's not an issue to submit the plans, because I do have to submit the plans to get the building permit. We're farm exempt and that sort of thing, because that's kind of where it kind of led to. Because when I went to go call out the building permit, that's what I had to do is, they said, well, you need to go to planning and zoning, and that's kind of where everything got halted at that point.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman, I think we're talking about 2 or 3 different things.
Yes.
We don't need plans to the house, and we're not talking square footage of anything. What we're talking about is if there are potentially 2 dwellings on a property, they're supposed to be 100 feet apart. So number one, you did need a conditional use to have what appeared to be 2 dwellings on one property. And number 2, the drawing we're talking about is simply to demonstrate that you can't put these 2 dwellings 100 feet apart. Or, and I guess one other possibility, because obviously we don't want to hold up construction of their home if at all possible. But if she were to say on the record and under oath, and she is under oath, that cabin is never going to be anything but an accessory building to their home, there will be no leasing it out, renting it out, nothing like that. It's simply an accessory to their home. Then we make that a condition, and we can give her a variance to build her home less than 100 feet. But absent sworn stipulation on the record, which would be enforceable down the road, then we have to have a drawing where it's demonstrated that this potential dwelling needs to be where, well, the potential home needs to be, because of topography or whatever else, less than 100 feet.
Yeah, and we have no problem with that. Absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. Under oath, swearing to that or anything to that issue. No problem with that at all. Because, we were going to suggest that anyway, whatever we have to do to, you know, to get this going or to put under oath or, you know, to make whatever we had to do to, notarize anything or to say, hey, if whatever, because things can happen. You don't know what could ever happen. Hey, if whatever in the future, say the land had to go up for sale, hey, because it was told, when I talked to Joe Kane, that he said, the reason being for the 100-foot, if the land had to go up for sale, you had to put on separate tracks, that sort of thing. That was the reason for the 100-foot, that sort of thing. I said, well, if that had to be come up, the cabin we put up for sale, that would be gone. We'd sell it, so nobody would have that issue in the future. That would be, we could do that. We could write that up, to make everyone comfortable so there would be no problems in the future. That wouldn't be a problem for us to, put that in writing, get it notarized, that wouldn't be a problem for us at all.
Thank you. Do we have any other concerns from members of the board?
So Charlie, if I understand you, what you're saying is we're just going to address this not as a secondary dwelling at all. This is just a dwelling.
It is not a second dwelling. That is an accessory building they happen to be living in until they finish their home.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be rented, leased, sold, nothing. It's going to be an accessory to their residence, period. And no one's going to be living in it. And if she states that under oath, which she is under oath on the record, we make that a part of the record, then at that point, there is no 100-foot separation between them. Now, if at some point in the future, they want to rent it, do something else with it, that will require a 100-foot separation. They won't have one, and they can apply for a variance at that point and demonstrate why it's needed. But if it wasn't needed in the first place, it probably won't be needed then, and they won't get a variance, which would mean they can't rent it, lease it, or anything in the future. If they sell it all as a unit, then that's a problem, a future buyer might have. We don't need to worry about future buyers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we just bought the land 2 years ago, and we just moved down here in October. So I don't think we're going anywhere. We just moved from town for 30 years. I think we're dead set on living here for a long time. This is our future place to call forever. So we're here for a long time. So
you stipulate on the record under oath that this is an accessory building to your residence, not for rental, lease, sale, or for any other people to live in.
Yes, sir. Correct. Yes.
Michaela, do you have any other concerns or questions, advice?
No, I think if that's, what Charlie thinks can work for this situation, then I'm fine with it. I'm in full support, so.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Do we still need a motion if it's no longer a secondary dwelling?
Good question.
Do we just resolve the whole issue with your suggestion there?
Yeah, I think the only thing that really brought it up as an issue is the potential of being a secondary dwelling.
Right.
She's just under oath said that isn't the case. Well, if that isn't the case, then there is no 100-foot requirement. There is no requirement that they get approval for a second dwelling because they don't have a second dwelling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess that just goes on record from the chairperson and we're done with it then, right?
And we make sure the record reflects all this, and then she can go build her home and have tea in the cabin from time to time, but not have any outsiders come live in it.
Okay.
All right. In regard to the discussion of S 2020-16, we will take the oath from Michelle Leach that this will not be used for anything other than an accessory building. as so noted by Mr. Perkins. Do we have any other items on the agenda?
Nope, that was it.
Janet's here.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Janet, do we need to give you a call next time and let you know when this thing starts?
I have been over an hour trying to get my sound. I've been watching you guys make all those faces, especially Kim.
I had to read.
Do we need to make some recommendations to you for some reliable equipment?
Probably so. I need a new phone, I think.
But by the way, which application did you come in?
Second.
Somebody say early on, Janet's here or something, but I didn't note it. And I need to put that in the minutes, along with some teasing, of course.
I hope
It
so.
was 18, I believe, Charlie. I think it was 18.
The Leach one, we're on Hess Branch.
Oh, you were in here before that, weren't you?
You were
Well-
here for you were here for Summerwind, weren't you? Because I was waving at you.
Summerwind. Yes.
Well, I couldn't see you then. This has been a struggle. I'm gonna have to have some training, I guess.
All right, but you weren't there for the veterinary.
No, I didn't. No.
All right, then I'll put in that you came in time for summer wind. I'm sure you were in by then. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Whatever. Just don't.
So we may have to get you to some other place. You can sit 6 feet from me at my house.
Come on over, Janet. Come to my house.
Well, I invited Sonia up, but I guess she forgot my invitation.
You don't have
All right.
Wi-Fi for my laptop.
Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will make that
Before
motion.
Before we adjourn, Michaela, we thank you for everything you've done. It's
Yeah.
been a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure for me too. I'm gonna miss you guys.
Whoa,
We
whoa,
the
whoa.
best.
Best of luck, Michaela.
What's that, Charlie?
Excuse me, what's happening?
You didn't read my emails?
Well, I apologize for that, but I'm still ignorant. What the hell is happening?
I accepted a
blaming
position
us.
in Louisville, so my last day is June 11th next week.
You mean you finally learned enough to put up with all my craziness and you're going to leave as soon as you do? Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
sorry
I'm
to
gonna
hear
miss
that.
you.
Well, thank you for everything, but I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
And whoever succeeds you, I'll try to occasionally read their bloody emails. And good luck in Louisville.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm sorry to hear that.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right. So to have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Just do it, Chair. You got the power here.
Thank you. The
Excellent.
meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. I've enjoyed all this.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Bye,
thank you.
guys. Bye, Michaela.